Tom Hardy grunts his way through Guy Ritchie's soapy homage to The Godfather. But why? And Pierce Brosnan shares hopeful update on his delayed epic werewolf thriller directed by his son. Star Pierce Brosnan breaks down his Irish accent. I will explain everything. Never miss this video. Before going to the main topic, I would like to say, like this video, and please subscribe to the channel. Tom Hardy grunts his way through Guy Ritchie's soapy homage to The Godfather. But why? Tom Hardy's gangster thriller is derivative, but absolutely amusing. It's like a soap opera for lads. Pierce Brosnan and Helen Mirren eat landscape to death as Hardy mumbles his way through the story. The best way to describe MobLand is as a soap opera for males. It's completely unoriginal yet painfully irresistible. Since Taylor Sheridan has literally created her empire on the back of costly sagas aimed at men, like Yellowstone, it is not surprising that the mob drama, temporarily, displaced her blockbusters from the viewership charts. We would have never guessed that Tom Hardy's protagonist in MobLand was actually introduced with a package of Vinyl in his hands. The film blends his trademark brand of family drama with the rough machismo of a Bollywood potboiler. It's that Ajay Devgn-coded. Based on his line delivery, he might as well be chewing elaichi in his scenes. Even though Hardy is known for being one of the greatest mumblers of his time, he can be incredibly dramatic when he wants to be. Let's not stand on ceremony here. In MobLand, he plays the role of Harry D'Souza and does just that. As a sort of fixer, Harry struggles with feelings of betrayal from both his own family, the Harrigans, and his adopted family, Jan and Gina, his teenage daughter. The psychopathic patriarch Conrad, Pierce Brosnan, leads the criminal empire of the Harrigans, while Harry, like Tom Hagen in The Godfather, is its brains and brawn. However, his primary responsibilities entail repairing damage, negotiating contracts, and apprehending individuals who choose to stay anonymous. If you need to bury a death or rescue an asset, you can call on Harry, who has connections all over the underworld. Eddie, the insane grandson of Conrad, kills the grandson of Richie Stevenson, his bitter rival, and the long-simmering animosity between the two families reaches a boiling point. Similar like when Sonny was assassinated by Don Corleone's henchmen. The word proportional response may not be in Conrad's work, but he isn't the type to suggest that the five families get together to settle their disagreements. On the other hand, Harry tries to rescue the two families from each other by mediating a truce between them. He is aware that Conrad and Richie are not the type of people who can be talked out of a precarious situation. In addition, he is aware that Conrad's wife Maeve, portrayed by Helen Mirren, is subtly manipulating him, an act so dramatic that Mirren could be trying out for a Sanjay Gupta film. The result is an uneven viewing experience, as some performances are overly campy, while Hardy seems objectively paralyzed. He seems to occupy a whole separate realm. 2 episodes of MobLand, created by Ronan Bennett and Jez Butterworth and directed by Guy Ritchie, will broadcast first. The signature dynamic camera work and lyrical language of Guy Ritchie are noticeably absent from both episodes. Here he is merely a hired gun. He is so uninvolved creatively that he likely had no say in the clothing selection. However, MobLand is effective on a fundamental level. Players are familiar enough with the characters and plots to disregard the game's severe pacing problems. The show doesn't demand your full focus, but it also isn't background noise. Some of the writing is awkward. For example, a crucial scene depends on an irrational deus ex machina that makes you wonder if Hussein Delal was the author of the episode. Even problems that haven't arisen yet have an answer in Harry's back pocket. You would think someone with his level of expertise would be running his own business. He may not be able to become a crime lord in and of himself. Conrad would have him killed for treason, but he could at least stay out of the way. Harry travels to Belgium in the middle of the season to save Conrad's 2 adult children. They're just like Fredo. They want to impress their dad so much, but can't pull it off. But London is where a lot of the action happens. Everyone is ordered to gather at the Harrigans' Cotswolds summer estate following an unforeseen plot twist in the middle of the season. With everyone living in the same house, the family drama becomes the main attraction. Similar to Clemenza in The Godfather, Maeve even whips up a storm for her cherished Eddie. Although Jan, Harry's wife, is considering leaving him. One scenario has her gazing down at her husband as he takes off on a perilous expedition, and she mutters to herself that she no longer finds anything attractive about him. This, unfortunately, is the overarching perception of the program that you are most likely to have. The film comes across as extremely sloppy due to its heavy reliance on previous gangster classics. Quite maybe, for example, it's obvious that MobLand was based on Yellowstone. Unlike most Netflix content, it's not completely algorithmic, but aside from the acting, it's not very good. Pierce Brosnan shares hopeful update on his delayed, epic werewolf thriller directed by his son. But how? Pierce Brosnan's casting as a senior werewolf hunter in the upcoming film, MobLand, was announced a little over 12 months ago. After being touted as an epic odyssey starring Brosnan, the project has been mostly silent, and the sad truth is that we now know why. While discussing his forthcoming Western, The Unholy Trinity, with MovieWeb's George Edelman, the topic of MobLand was brought up. News broke in 2024 that Brosnan would be directing the picture, which would feature him as Devlin, a former werewolf hunter who aids a troubled adolescent. But since then, Brosnan has been busy with roles such as Ron Ritchie in the forthcoming film, The Thursday Murder Club, voicing Pontius Pilate in The King of Kings, and starring in the blockbuster Paramount Plus series, MobLand. This has left him with little time for anything else, which is unfortunate because it has hindered his progress with MobLand. It has been pushed to the side. With MobLand and now Unholy Trinity, my career has taken off in an instant. For me, there's been a surge of work here. Still, Brosnan is holding out hope that MobLand will be greenlit, saying it's just finding the time to be able to make the movie with scene. We wish him and his son the best of luck making this one, because the plot sounds amazing. And we can't wait to see how Brosnan brings the role to life. MobLand follows a young teenager who, after his sister is brutally attacked and begins to show signs of a transformation, flees his small village in quest of a renowned werewolf hunter who can break the terrible curse. Upon discovering the legend, Devlin, slumped against a bar and uninterested in ghost stories, he accepts the child's money and decides to pursue the spectral creature, only to be caught up in a terrible hurricane of destruction. On top of all the projects listed above, Brosnan's demand for his services is still great. Even though he appeared in Steven Soderbergh's Black Bag earlier this year, the 72-year-old former 007 is busier than ever and has even more on the way. Helena Bonham Carter and Gabriel Byrne reprise their roles as regular people entangled in a remarkable love story in 4 Letters of Love, set to premiere on July 25, following The Unholy Trinity. The sports biopic Giant, which follows the life of Prince Nassim Hamed, a boxer, will feature Brosnan as Brendan Ingle, an Irish boxing trainer. Another project he has lined up is the remake of Cliffhanger, which stars Sylvester Stallone. In it, he will portray Ray Cooper, Naomi's father, opposite Lily James. The release date for that one is still up in the air, although it is expected to be sometime around 2026. It goes without saying that Brosnan is clearly not slowing down anytime soon. Here's hope that MobLand can find a way into his hectic calendar soon. His next film, The Unholy Trinity, will be released in theaters on June 13, 2025. You can watch every episode of MobLand on Paramount Plus right now. Star Pierce Brosnan breaks down his Irish accent. But why? Some say Pierce Brosnan was born and raised in Ireland. In order to portray the role of mafia father Conrad Harrigan on his Paramount Plus series MobLand, he had to experiment with voice acting. Conrad is a blast to hang out with, he expressed. At the perfect moment in my life, he discovered me. All told, I received 5 episodes from director Guy Ritchie last summer. Perched on the lanai, I perused the poultry papers. Work by Guy Ritchie is fantastic. His flicks are incredibly thrilling to see. Yes, I jumped right in. When I told him yes that day, we immediately began discussing Conrad's character. It is for sure that he comes from an Irish family. Listen, don't fret over it, he reassured. You should forget about it. We will resolve this in 15 minutes on the scheduled day. I merely sought clarification, Guy. Just 15 minutes. I can get it done that day. No way did I do that. The next step is to chill off, fret, and get ready. After struggling to find the right accent for his role as Harry D'Souza, the fixer for the Harrigan family, on set alongside co-star Tom Hardy, Brosnan discovered his voice, much to the delight of his own father. After hanging out with Guy for 5 weeks, he told me to go more Irish, exactly on the same day. More Irish. There was a situation with Tom, he explained. Our 3-page scenario was our debut together. Your veins are charged with nervousness and excitement as you embark on your first day. The dialect I use to speak Irish is very delicate and gentle. Further, I was hoping for an accent typical of Kerry. I had no acquaintance with the man from Kerry until my grandfather, Tom Brosnan, arrived. In my conversation with Brendan Gunn, my dialect coach, I said, "Give me a Kerry accent." He actually accomplished it. I jumped in with this kind of pretty stinging, insane Kerry accent like some pig farmer within the span of 20 minutes as he showed me the work of this Irish politician. Helen Mirren, who plays Pierce Brosnan's wife Maeve, came in to provide her approval for his accent. Absolutely, I must admit. An agrarian pig farmer who has actually made extensive use of London. Also, you can see some London. Many Londoners have Irish ancestry, and the city is home to several traditional Irish pubs and festivals. Specifically, Mirren worked on her Irish accent by remembering lines from her previous appearance on 1923. I can relate, she said, her story sounding much like mine. Because of their long history of London residency, I assumed that the Irish people must speak with a dialect typical to North London. What I really mean is that I'll do a little bit of London on my first day of shooting. Then Pierce interrupts, saying, "No, no, no, we are doing Irish." Fortunately, I had recently played the Irish player Cara in 1923, so I was prepared. Thus, the accent remained strongly imprinted in my head, allowing me to effortlessly adopt it. However, I thought it was hilarious. The goal with MobLand was to maximize that. This fantastic plan to do it on the go was what it was. The experience was thrilling. Joanne Froggatt on why Jan really stabbed Harry, Alice's fate, and more. Joanne Froggatt's Jan D'Souza stabbed Tom Hardy's Harry in an angry outburst in the season finale of MobLand, shocking and horrifying everyone involved while yet evoking strangely amusing reactions. For Jan, it was the pinnacle of his frustrations. Because of Harry's undying devotion to the Harrigans, she and her daughter Gina, played by Teddy Allen, find themselves entangled in the conflict between the Harrigan and Stevenson families. To escape a counterattack, they are forced to take refuge in the Cotswolds country house. Being alone with the Harrigans led Gina to fall in love with the frequently despised Eddie, Anson Boone, which further added to the turmoil she was already experiencing as a result of the dangers posed by Harry's job. Jan's growing friendship with Alice, Emily Barnes, was his sole solace. But even that was disappointing because Alice was an undercover investigator who was pressuring Jan for information concerning Conrad, Pierce Brosnan, and Maeve, Helen Mirren. She had finally had enough of Harry by the end, and she told him so before inadvertently stabbing him. Jan's immediate horror was obvious, but Harry reacted calmly and even humorously. Might that violent deed have been the D'Souza's savior? In order to analyze the season, the shocking climax, and the future of MobLand, TV insiders spoke with actress Joanne Froggatt. We will begin with the conclusion. Was Jan's reaction to stabbing Harry utterly terrified, or did she find any relief in the act? Dear Joanne Froggatt, excellent inquiry. Right now, I think she's really horrified. Without a doubt, she is horrified. Yet she manages to capture his attention. Furthermore, it served no purpose. It was merely an extremely dire circumstance. They lead extremely dramatic lives. Those folks are really out there. However, Harry is fluent in that language, and I suppose there's an aspect to that as well. Jan is probably just horrified and slightly shocked by what she did. For the first time in a long time, Harry gives her a serious look, and the two of them have a "what now?" moment. I also feel like it's the beginning of something, so it's the beginning of something. In my opinion, I hope it marks the beginning of their reunion. She had previously declared, "I'm done," and expressed her desire to depart. Even though it was brutal, It appeared like maybe the activity was somewhat therapeutic for them. In addition, Jan isn't quite as naive as she seems to be. She's brave. For 20 years, she has been an active participant in this life. Yes, she has been experiencing feelings of disappointment. Her age is approximately 45. She's 16. She thinks as she looks at their daughter Gina, she will depart from the nest. Where do we go from here? After that, what's the point of living? Jan finds it incredibly challenging to have a profession, friends, or anything else due to the intense level of secrecy surrounding Harry's work and her own lack of employment experience. Thus, Jan is actually rather lonely, and she is constantly seeking Harry's attention. "By the way, this man is the one I adore," she says. "Am I still loved by you? Is our significance diminished?" Jan has quite a road ahead of her, but I believe she finds some peace of mind by telling herself, "All right, if I don't know the details, it's all okay." But she's been content to accept Harry's responsibilities and perks, and she's even aware of his occupation. Therefore, I do believe that it could serve as a reminder to Jan that she isn't as naive as she seems. Is what transpired between Gina and Eddie something that you feel contributed to the breaking point? Was the possibility that something similar would occur something that Jan was afraid of? Jan is vehemently opposed to Gina being with Eddie. That much is clear. Our writer, Jez Butterworth, has done an excellent job of highlighting the build across the series. Jan experiences this escalating series of increasingly perilous circumstances. Since the Harrigans are now at war with the Stevensons, which has never happened before, things are becoming increasingly tense. Plus, Jan probably thought that Harry's line of work would start to wind down now that they're older, and that they could even retire early with all that money, and it's intensifying, not decreasing. They feel like they're in their most vulnerable state, and Jan is thinking, "Oh, I didn't sign up for this at this age. By now, I was hoping we'd have arrived at the beautiful villa." That seems like a lot for Jan's procedure, in my opinion. Her daughter's safety is clearly a concern for her. For her daughter's sake, she wishes she could do more. Instead of letting her daughter live the same life she has, she hopes she gets a good education so that she can be financially and professionally independent and make her own choices in life. Jan has always relied on Harry as the traditional figure in her extremely unconventional environment. She is quite traditional and old-fashioned in that regard. At work, Harry has been the odd man out. The kid has been staying home with January despite the fact that Harry's work is unethical. They have somewhat resorted to those conventional roles. The bottom line is that Jan wants what's best for Gina, just as any parent does, right? A lot of this season saw Jan forming this friendship with Alice. She was a little naive. How was it like for you to play that where she's having these conversations and doesn't really realize what's going on? Yeah, it's very fascinating to follow up with because there were a few points when she was truly going to spill the beans. Plus, I was all, "Hey no, I am not qualified to say that." No, Jan, why? You ask as an observer, while she believes she is merely chatting with someone. And why on earth would you ever say that? You must be well informed. However, she really isn't that forthcoming. Her knowledge of their attendance at the Stevensons' funeral is limited, but she refrains from divulging any significant details. The most important city is Antwerp. And certainly, I believe she's simply relaxed her guard because she's here, clearly looking for something. She's starting treatment soon. She has grown as a person and is seeking a deeper meaning in life and a meaningful relationship with others. I believe her desire for it is so strong that she meets Alice without fully realizing the danger of the truth. Maybe Jan had more life experience when she was younger, but now she seems to have been led astray by her inflated sense of self-confidence. Also, she's lonely and might use a companion. What happened after Alice left the house with the proof was not shown to us? Is Jan likely to have any guilt as a result of that? Or does she consider the possibility that the Harrigans deserve this? Once she finds out, she might feel guilty, but I don't think guilt plays a large role in their life. Even if Jan prefers to stay in the dark, I believe she is still deeply involved in the life. Thus, I do not believe any of them place a high value on shame. If it weren't for their actions, you wouldn't see them. However, I believe Jan will experience mixed emotions. On one hand, she will likely feel sorry for Alice. On the other hand, I imagine she would rationalize her actions by saying, "Well, Alice tricked me, so therefore she deserved everything she got." I also think Jan has a strong stance. In terms of loyalty, she's really strong, and I can imagine how heartbroken she would be if Alice found out she was only fooling her. Actually, Alice's demise remains a mystery to us. The prevailing belief is that she is abducted and taken away in some manner. But do you secretly wish that she returns for next season so you can finally resolve your differences? It sounds perfect for me. To be honest, Emily was a delight to work with. She's an amazing actor and a wonderful human being. Collaborating was an absolute blast. I felt bad that Jan missed out on her chance to shine with Alice. Literally or figuratively, I would love to see Jan and her take it to the next level by giving it to her with 2 barrels. Very much so indeed. I suppose I am assuming Alice has passed away, but you're absolutely correct. The truth is that we are unsure. Like you, I have no idea, so I am clueless. Therefore, yes, it is possible. Those lines would be perfect for me. The show also has other women who are involved in the plot, namely Bella and Maeve. For you, riding the wave of their relentless intensity throughout the season was quite an experience. That was a blast. We were co-workers a long time ago. Lara Pulver, who plays Bella. I hadn't seen her in a while, but we're friends. Therefore, it is a delight to collaborate once more. In addition, I've mentioned in numerous interviews that Dame Helen Mirren is an actress whose work I've always respected and hope to emulate, so the opportunity to collaborate with her she is the epitome of a delightful, approachable, competent, and exceptionally bright human being. What a delightful companion, someone you simply desire to spend time with. I love her. Thus, it was really stunning. It was breathtaking. These powerful, imperfect, and even malevolent, with Maeve in particular, women are my favorites. In particular, Maeve is the mastermind behind all of this. While the men are out there playing the hard game, Maeve is quietly managing events. I find it fascinating and fantastic that Maeve is the true kingpin, if you will. Also, Jan is leading a different life than the other women, and she's not manipulative at all. While the other women on the show have accepted their roles as insiders, she refuses to do so. So Jan is still attempting to cling to the margins, the peripheral, but she isn't really making much of an impact. No more today. What are you thinking about this gossip today? Let us know in the comments, and stay tuned by subscribing to our channel to get more updates like this. Thank you.